And how am I going to stand out? So, and the family member said to me, make sure you have your knowledge is on par to those men in those rooms. Make sure that you are not just a pretty face in the room. So, you know what? Brains go a lot further than looks. And with that being said, just, stay current, read the newspaper, watch some sports. It's a great icebreaker when you're in a room full of men, talk about football. So, what my suggestion and recommendation is, um, yeah, you're always going to be the minority in a room, and it's okay. Just make sure you're confident and you have a presence about you, and know your facts, know what you're going in that room for, and be that person that's equally as intelligent as the guy sitting next to you.
You brought up a good point of being well researched and well prepared. My wife is in the banking world. She's working between Canada and Europe, and she always tells me that when she's presenting to a group of executives, in most circumstances, she's the only female in that room of 10 or 15 male executives. And she always feels like she has to do more. She has to be over researched, over prepared, and it's almost like overcompensation. How does that make you feel as a woman that you have to put in that extra work every time you're on stand? How does it feel for you guys? Nabila, thoughts?
I mean, it's unfortunate, but I think we're capable, right? Women are built stronger, and so we've always had to, to work harder and think things through more. So, even though it is a man's world, and sometimes we do have to go above and beyond to prove ourselves, um, we're more than capable of it, right? So, as long as you're a hard worker and you have your background, and like Prenal said, education is so important, and education is constantly evolving. And so if you're not evolving with it, and understanding how the world is changing, you will be left behind. But I think that's like male or female, it doesn't matter. So it's just something that is something you have to constantly work on, and that can always help in your success in the future.
Okay. And how about yourself, Prino? For those people who feel like they have to overcompensate to prove themselves, how does it make you feel?
Um, I think women we're great multitaskers. So I feel like we're always overcompensating. And I think that's an advantage and not so much of a disadvantage. So look, you have to put in a little extra work. What's the big deal? I mean, it's if it's to progress yourself, progress your career, progress your leadership to the next level, then why not? So I think, um, maybe I'm a bit of a overly positive person, but I think it's important to just not get bogged down with the whys all the time, and sometimes the why nots just work better for me as a person. And it's okay. It's okay because as humans, and as Nabila mentioned, we have to evolve. I mean, if we're not changing, if we're not growing, if we're not evolving, um, then we're doing a massive disservice to ourselves as individuals.
Okay. It's the entrepreneurial and leadership world is known as almost a boys' club or men's world. It just is what it is. Even if you look at EO, we have around 80% more male entrepreneurs than we do female. And as we recruit, we actually find it difficult to find female entrepreneurs who want to join and who are willing to give that time. Where do you guys find support in a boys' club world? Because without that support, it's hard to help each other grow. How do you guys find that support? Either.
Um, so for me, entrepreneurs organization really opened my mind to how the world works, and to actually put my own personal internal gender bias, like completely take it off the table. So up until I was in EO, or Entrepreneurs Organization, I didn't even realize how similar men and women are, and how similar our experiences in lives are, right? I mean, it turns out that when I'm having a bad day, one of my colleagues in entrepreneurs organization is having an equally bad day. So I think for me, being a member of entrepreneurs organization has allowed me to just realize that I have feelings just as they have feelings, and their challenges and their struggles and their fears are the same fears, struggles, and challenges I have. And it has nothing to do with gender, and it has everything to do with me as an individual. I mean, like Nabila said, you know, confidence. You know, we are our own worst enemies. Sometimes we talk ourselves out of situations before we've even put ourselves into it. And so, had it not been for the boys' club, I would have never realized that I am just as capable as every gentleman on this club. And that just inspires me, it motivates me, and excites me because it allows me to realize that I am my own potential, and what I do for myself is mine.
Huh. And how about yourself, Nabila? How do you find that support, and what do you advise those female entrepreneurs and leaders? How can they find those support groups?
So when I joined EO, I was a bit worried because, like you said, it's predominantly male led, and it didn't take very long for me to kind of let go of that preconceived notion, because I guess I was lucky in a way that my forum, they've evolved into like annoying little brothers and big brothers, that I never asked for, but I got. And, it's so nice because I've never felt like I don't belong there or I'm treated any differently. It's people coming together to share their experiences and to, lean on each other in times of difficulty, right? And I think that's really important. So, you need to surround yourself with people who uplift you and support you on a daily basis, right? So surround yourself with friends who are there to lift you up and support you, rather than, put that negativity in your mind that there's, you can't do this, you can't do that. So, whether it's your family, your spouse, or your friends, just, make a conscious effort to surround yourself with people who are looking out for you and have your best interest at heart, and also who push you, right, to step out of your comfort zone and try something new and something different. Because, you are who you surround yourself with. And if you're on people who aren't pursuing greatness, you're not going to be motivated to do that either.
I like that. Surround yourself with people who are reaching greatness. Surround yourself with people you admire to be. Find your community, find your support. Don't be afraid to reach out to other leaders in similar positions in other corporations. Use LinkedIn, Facebook, just reach out. It doesn't hurt to reach out and be like, you know what? I admire what you do. Can we grab a coffee? I'd love to pick your brain about something. Even within your own organizations, whether you're an entrepreneur or not, find like-minded people and see how you can leverage off each other to grow and succeed. Now, there's something I've heard whenever I'm speaking with female entrepreneurs about their rise to leadership. There's this whole thing of alpha females in leadership, where it's like once they reach the position, they're trying to protect their position, and they almost make it more difficult for other females to grow. How does it make you feel when you hear about people like that, and what's your advice for people in those situations, Prenal?
I think women need to be other women's cheerleaders. I find that women that are fighting for the win, and they're fighting for themselves, are not going to get that far. We need to support each other. We need to cheer each other on, and we need to be there for each other in those times when it's needed. Let's just be very honest. There's plenty of space up there, and if you want it, it's yours. So, you know, women putting other women down is just a sign of their own insecurity, and look at it as that and move on from it. You can't change other people's behaviors around you, but you can control your behavior around those situations.
And Nabila, how about yourself?
Looking at someone else's success does not make you a failure, right? So you have to understand that one woman rising to the top isn't going to help women all over the world, right? It's something that takes team effort and support. Like Prenal said, there's plenty of room at the top, right? There's no need to compete with each other. Uplift each other, help each other, because when you do that, you make your that you get that power to really make a difference up there, at top levels of business, and in life, right? So, like I said, it's not about looking at somebody else's success or letting someone succeed doesn't make you any less of a success, right? Or any more of a failure. It's just about embracing each other, working together, and, paving the way for future daughters and, that are coming into this world. And that's the whole point of life, right? You want to leave the world a better place than when you found it. And so I think this whole idea of women supporting women is a great way to get started on that.
Yeah. I think there's been so much change over the generations from our great-great-grandparents' time, grandparents now. And one thing I really admire about being in Uganda is there are so many female leaders in a lot of our government offices, corporate offices, CEOs, ministers. There's a lot of support towards female leadership and female entrepreneurs. Who are some of those Ugandan female leaders that you admire, and what attributes do they possess that make them successful? Start with Prenal.
So I don't know that many Ugandan female leaders, but I'm hoping to meet more as I progress in my leadership journey here in Uganda. But one woman who stood out to me was Barbara Mulwano. She's a second generation family business leader like myself. She's a mother of 3. She runs multiple organizations. And she's really a mover and shaker in this town, I mean, she sits on many boards, and she's well known across the community. So for me, she's one person that I absolutely admired when I met her, and I saw such positivity and energy out of her. And it's women like her that keep me going every day, who keep inspiring me to kind of be a better leader, to be a better boss, be a better wife, be a better mother. So, I'd say Barbara Mulwano is the one who did it for me.
Okay, and how about yourself, Nabila? Who's that female entrepreneur or female leader that you admire, and why?
I would say Janet Museveni, not only because she's the first lady, but she's been involved in a lot of amazing initiatives, for HIV, for example, bringing a lot of awareness to the country about that, which I think is really important. And also, being in the Ministry of Education, educating our girls means educating the world, right? And securing our future. So I think that, her efforts with education, especially for the young children in Uganda, and emphasizing the importance of it, whether you're a man or a woman, it doesn't matter. Having that education gives you that foundation, to take up any challenge in life, and you always have your education to fall back on, right? Businesses come and go, and, I think education gives you that skill in life to survive.
I think I've said this in every street live stream that we've done. Education is your passport to freedom, your passport to success. If you can only educate one child and you have a male and a female, pick the female. The males will get through life and they'll sort themselves out. But the female, if you empower them and you give them that opportunity, there's so much they can do with that education, and they will look after the family, they will nurture it, and they will grow. I've heard through a lot of the feedback from female entrepreneurs that they find it more difficult to get funding when they go to banks or micro lending. What are some tips and tricks you have for those females trying to get funding for their projects and businesses? Prenal.
So there's so many doors that open, especially when you're a female. So to think that you don't have the same opportunity as your male counterpart is probably not the most accurate thought. Um, Banks have so many different programs that offer are specifically offered to women, but as well as, don't shut your doors on yourself, because at the end of the day, you have the option of a handful of banks who are looking to give out funding. So, when you walk into that meeting, don't go in with that mindset of, oh, am I going to get this? Are they going to fund me? Do I have what it takes to be a successful leader? What are they looking for? Go in knowing that you are going to grow your business, you are going to succeed in your business, and ask the bank, don't ask the bank for a loan, ask the bank, why should I pick you as my loaning agency when there's a pool of other opportunities out there? So I think confidence speaks louder than being too conservative or fearful, and just go in with the mindset that you know what you want to achieve in your business and what it's going to take to achieve what you want in your business. So the loan, like getting a loan, again, I've never personally had any challenges with it. However, don't go in with the mindset that you're not going to get one. Go in with the mindset that I have the best business model, and you know what? It is going to come through for me.
And how about yourself, Nabila? What's some advice, some tips and tricks for those at home trying to get loans, especially female entrepreneurs?
You know what? I don't think it matters if you're male or female, as long as your business plan is thorough, your proposal is thorough. It is about what Prenal said. It's about having that confidence and that mindset. What you manifest will come true, right? So fake it till you make it. Go in there saying, I own this place. I need this money. I'm going to get it. Why should I get it from you, right? It's just about the mindset and the confidence. And of course, you have to do a lot of research when it comes to starting a business, and just make sure that you have done every possible, research or anything it takes to have that business plan solid. And that's the way that, that's what's really going to help you get a loan, right? It's about having that background and having that confidence in going up to anybody and pitching your idea.
I guess it comes back to what you said before. Don't stand in your own way.
Yeah.
Go in there confident. You go into that bank or microfinance as if you're interviewing them to get their money. So, go in with confidence and prove yourself through your business plan. Be well prepared. Think of the questions they will ask you. Present to friends and family. Pretend they're the banker and you're asking them for money, and see what their feedback is. Learn through that process. Be rehearsed. You only have one shot. When you walk into a bank or when you're trying to get money for a loan, you have one shot to make an impact. Be confident right from the beginning and act like you already have that money in your pocket. Now I'm going to take a small shift to family businesses. I know both of you come from family businesses. Both of you are daughters in a family business. There's typically that stereotype that females get married and go to another family, and it's the men that kind of raise up into family businesses. How do you feel about that? And tell us a bit about your journey in entering your family businesses. Let me start with Nabila.
So I'm an only daughter to my dad, and like I mentioned, I'm the only female in our business. And I'll be very honest. Initially, there was a bit of a struggle. Trying to pave my own way and trying to do things. And I think the struggle was more of a generational gap. My parents' generation, my father's business, like they had to work that from the ground up, right? So their attachment to this business is very different than coming in 30 years later and having a different way of doing things, right? We're in the technology age, and we have, we work smarter, not harder. And it's very different from that generation, right? They're still, paper and pen, and, even if it's the harder way to do it, they'll still do it that way because they know that that's, it's more that's the only way they know. So yeah, there was definitely struggles initially, but then, I think it's a struggle for any child in a family to come into, because you have to prove yourself, right? Just because it's your family, it doesn't mean that you get that acceptance right away, right? It's not about starting at the top. It's working your way up from the bottom, right? And that's the only way that you will earn that position. And it's not necessarily easier to be in a family business than it is to work for somebody else, because it never stops, right? It follows you home. It's being a business owner and being part of a family business. It's 24 hours a day. So yeah, there are challenges, but as long as you put in the work and put in the effort, you'll get there.
And how about yourself, Prino? Tell us a bit about your journey in entering your family business. Do you feel like you have to prove yourself sometimes more to your family than you would to an outsider?
So, um, I have a younger sister, so I also come from a family of girls. And, my father's philosophy has always been whatever he can do, we can do too. So, we were raised believing that we were like half boy somehow, or that whatever a man could do, we could do better or equally as good. So, we were raised in that environment where we just had to, we grew up believing in ourselves. Um, yeah, absolutely. It hasn't been an easy journey. Every day I'm still trying to prove to my father that I am a very capable leader. And, I think it's learn and to grow. And look, girls are equally as good as boys at whatever they set their minds to. So if you are competing for a position in your father's or mother's company and with your sibling, learn to work as a team because, like our motto in our office goes, teamwork makes the dream works. So figure it out, whether it's with your siblings, whether it's with your parents, just find that happy place where everyone wins and everyone uses their expertise to grow the organization.
There's a tendency for people to judge us. When you see us sitting on these chairs, you're like, oh yeah, they're rich, they're sitting on these chairs and they're giving us advice. But you don't know our journeys. You don't know how we started. I started in a very similar way. When I started at Fairway, my dad said, you're not sitting in my office. You go out, you work in maintenance, work in the gardens, work in housekeeping. I worked in the kitchen, I worked at reception, I went to marketing, front office. So, we've all had our journeys to rise to where we are. And the advice we give is based on those journeys and what we've experienced in our lives. Another thing I want to ask you guys is, what advice do you have for those fathers at home who are doubtful of their daughter's abilities? What would you tell those fathers at home now? Prenal, I'll start with you and then.
My dad took a chance on my sister and I don't think he's complaining. So if you're a father with a daughter or daughters and are contemplating, shall we bring them into the business? Shall we not? Look, a daughter is never going to let her parents down. And, no matter how educated she is or no matter how far she got in life, she's always got her parents' back. So, yeah, give her a shot. You will be pleasantly surprised.
And Nabila, what's the advice you have for those fathers at home?
So same thing. I'm the only daughter and the only child, so I didn't give my dad much of a choice. But same thing. I mean, you won't know until you actually give them the opportunity to prove themselves. And I think, daughter or son, it doesn't matter. You need to give them the equal opportunity to try, right? And like we've established, women are more emotional. And that just means that they care more. And so I think having somebody like a daughter in your family business is going to care a lot more and think a lot more before she makes any decision. So it's an asset to have a daughter to work in your business. And just be open-minded,
Okay. We have a lot of questions coming in, and before I go into some of those questions, I wanted to ask you guys a bit about your journey through EO. EO is an organization of entrepreneurs around the world, and we come together and we try to help each other out to grow ourselves personally, but also our businesses. And there's a lot of various organizations out there who do similar things: women empowerment, BNI, YPO, and EO is one of them. Any of you at home that are interested in EO, just Google EO Uganda, look at some of the information, and you can always email to ask questions or to get advice. For you guys, tell us a bit about your EO journey and how can these business associations help people grow? Prenal.
So I'm actually one of the founding members of EO here in Uganda. And for me, EO just opened up so many doors that I had shut down on myself. So through EO, we are, 13,000 members globally. So I have access to 13,000 other entrepreneurs for any question I might have. I have access to my own personal board inside the EO organization. And so for me, EO has been almost like a stepping stone to, one, build my confidence, two, to just help me realize that whatever goals and aspirations I have for myself, personal and professional, I can attain them with a little bit of structure and a little bit of guidance. So for me, my EO counterparts are brothers and sisters, friends, and like their family, because I know that they've always got my back in those situations where I might have a lot of self-doubt or concerns on if I'm doing something right or wrong.
And yourself, Nabila?
We all think Uganda is very small, but it's really not. And, there's so many people out there that you don't know and you've never met. And I think with EO, I was able to, network and meet people that I would never, ever, ever have met otherwise. And, they say, like, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. And I think EO has opened up a lot of doors, especially in Uganda specifically, but also globally. I mean, you have, like Prenal said, there's access to thousands of people in all these different industries who are just there to support you, and they don't even know you, right? But just this brotherhood and sisterhood, this unspoken understanding that you're there for each other is so nice to have. And, to know that you're never alone, no matter what challenge you're facing, whether it's in your personal life or your business, you're not alone. And to have that support system of people who've gone through the same experiences that you have, or are going through them with you, is really nice to know that you're never alone. And so that's what EO has helped me with significantly.
Wow. No, thank you guys so much for your insight, your advice, and sharing some of your journey with us. It's not an easy thing to share the intimacies of how we've grown through our businesses. So thank you so much for being here and being so open with everyone. We have a few questions that have come in. The first question is from a lady called Margaret. I run my own hardware shop. I have 4 kids. I'm always tired and stressed. I feel like giving up and just being home. Any advice?
Margaret, if you don't work out, start working out. I think just giving yourself, like Nabila had mentioned earlier, to take care of the self, give yourself an hour or half an hour a day and do something physical. The more physical activity you bring into your life, the more energy you will have, and you won't feel so disgruntled and stressed out all the time. But don't give up on your business. It's your livelihood. And you know what? Your children are probably your biggest cheerleaders. So my only piece of wisdom is work out, because it gives you a lot of energy. And as a not so young mother, I swear by this.
We have a question from Joanne. I'm a supervisor at my workplace. My male juniors keep undermining me, and I'm finding it difficult to show my authority. What can I do?
I think it's just being very confident in the way you present yourself, right? If you are being undermined and you have the ability to make a shift in staff, then do that, right? Because you're trying to create a positive work environment. And if you're constantly undermined, and you let that happen and you let that continue to happen, it's not going to change. So you're not okay with it, you're not happy with it, make that change.
Yeah, and I think, set the expectation for when you take the role. So for some of us who have been in those positions where people have been undermining you, it might be difficult to all of a sudden show authority. But if you do 1 or 2 things, like maybe changing one of the members around, it might kind of wake them up. And most importantly, don't let it bug you. When you let it bug you and it affects your confidence, it will affect how you act as a leader. So you're in that position because somebody thought you were the right person for that position, and you deserve to be in that position. So don't allow people below you to ever threaten that and ever make you lose your confidence. You're there for a reason. Show your authority and get the work done. We have a question from Rachel. I'm a young female entrepreneur. I have lots of ideas. How do I pick the right one?
I think it's also relying on your support system that I talked about earlier, right? Try and meet new people. Try and network through LinkedIn or Facebook or whatever it is that you use on a daily basis. Somebody who's already, in these industries, who are established, and somebody who can give you genuine advice on, whether your idea has potential, right? And so I think it's about networking and getting feedback from people who are experienced in the same industry that you're looking to go into.
Okay. As a female, how do you deal with chauvinistic male leaders?
Ignore it. um, Chauvinism is just part of life, and you're going to run into people that just don't like you because you're a female. Um, you know, but don't give attention to it. I think when somebody catcalls, for instance, right, you have two choices. Your first choice is to react, or your second choice is to just say, hey, okay, it happened, and walk away from it. So my approach has always been, I can't change the way that person thinks. I can only control how I react to this situation. And typically, I choose to just turn around and walk away.
Can I just interject?
Please.
Do that as well, but um, don't become so like, don't allow it either, right? React however you see fit, but if it's to the point where your intelligence or your capabilities or something is at like is under threat, then I would say don't tolerate it, don't put up with it.
Don't take it. How can one learn confidence later on in life? And I think this is something that a lot of people struggle with, including myself. I feel like throughout my own entrepreneurial journey, it took me a while to build confidence, to speak in front of people. And for me, the way I started was starting to do trainings with 2 people, 5 people, 10. And by growing in that way, it built my own confidence and allowed me to now speak in front of 100 or 500 people and say, you know what, I can do this. I can stand up here and do it. But what's some other advice of how people can gain that confidence later on in life?
Um, for me, I was actually a very timid person, and you would never guess that when you see me today. And I think I've just always put myself in uncomfortable situations, and putting myself in situations where I kind of had to force myself to become confident. So I think you can become confident at any age. You just have to be willing to push yourself that extra mile, and really really do uncomfortable things. I mean, I'm uncomfortable right now, but I think just being here and doing this is enabling me to just build another level of confidence, for any other opportunities that come my way in the future.
And how about yourself, Nabila? Any tips and tricks on how to build that confidence?
I think it's the same thing. I mean, the only way to get over your fear is to face it head on, right? Um, I'm terrified being up here right now, and I'm so glad that there's nobody else. There's not a live audience, because, that's something that's even on my list today, right? That I want to learn to be, to continue to be confident. And so that's why I'm here today, right? I'm facing a fear, and that's the only way you'll get over it, is to face it head on.
At what age were you first included in your family business? Any advice to get our children more interested in earning and not just spending? So I've been asked this question myself multiple times. I think especially kids from successful family businesses, there's a tendency to overspend because money has come to us so freely and openly. How do we engage our kids to understand the value of money and what it takes to earn?
Um, so I think start with the small things, allowances, for instance, right? I was brought into the family, or introduced to the family business around 15, 16. I feel like the modern day kid is a lot savvier, and you could probably bring them into the workforce as young as like 9 or 10. But set boundaries. For instance, allowances, don't, I know that we're privileged and our parents can probably give us what we want, but so what? Earn it. Earn it through the work you do, whether it's in the household, whether it's in the office. Um, my son's always trying to negotiate some kind of allowance when he travels, and our rule is, well, prove it. Prove that you've earned that allowance by doing chores in the house, performing well in school, contributing to learning a new activity, or something as simple as building your confidence by putting yourself in an uncomfortable situation. So my suggestion and recommendation is that there's never a right age to bring your kids into the business. If you feel they're ready, bring them in, and then offer allowances. Don't just give it away.
Anything from yourself?
You know, I think kids and myself, I can speak for myself only. You know, we're constantly changing as people, right? I'm not the same person I was when I was 20 years old, 15, or even 5 years ago, right? We're constantly evolving, constantly changing. So I think from time to time, checking in on your kids, seeing where they're at, where their heads at, and you know, it's setting your kids up for success, right? So, and they also need life experiences, right? So you don't want your child to feel like they're pressured into joining the business. Maybe they have some wild oats to sow before coming back and you know, settling. So it's having those conversations early in life, as early as possible. You know, my dad, one of the first things he ever told me was, you know, you need to learn the value of money. And that's something that stuck with me all these years. And, you know, it's even like teaching them that if you have like, you know, let's say you give them 100,000 shillings, and seeing where they put that money and how they do it is a good way for you to kind of learn how to educate them better based on, you know, their spending habits. So yeah, it's just, you know, having those conversations and giving them the opportunity to explore life the way they want to, because you don't want to force anything on your children.
Yeah, you know, it's there are a lot of techniques you can use. Bring your kids to work. Let them see how hard you work to earn that 100,000 shillings. There's a book I read when I was young, Rich Dad Poor Dad, and it talks about how you can give your kids tools to understand how to invest. Ask them, if I was to give you 50,000 shillings, what would you do with that money? How would you turn that 50,000 into 100,000? And let them try. In Canada, we do things like garage sales and lemonade stands that are not so applicable to maybe the Ugandan market, but there are little things you can do, right? So maybe take your son to the hardware shop and say, hey, look, I want you to sell this product. Who would buy this product? What are they going to use it for? Make them understand your trade. Make them understand your business from the emotional side so they can understand how money works and how it's spent. There's a question from a lady called Anna. What benefits have you received from your leadership experiences?
There's so many.
Yeah.
But I think the one that stands out the most for myself is, as a leader here in Uganda, the opportunities have just been abundant. And the benefit to leadership is that I can walk into any door, into any building, into any business, and I'll take something away from that interaction, be it with the president of the company, be it with the procurement officer, be it with even the receptionist. So for me, I think I am a better leader today because of the opportunities that I have encountered on in my journey of leadership.
And how about yourself?
I think it's being able to, like, being in a position of leadership has allowed me to give opportunities to women in Uganda to be employed, right? Giving them job opportunities and giving them a source of income for themselves and for their families. So I think that, you know, when I specifically seek out women for the business, it gives me a whole lot of satisfaction knowing that, you know, I've helped a woman help herself, right? She's working and she's earning it, and yeah, I think that's one of the biggest, you know, like aspects of happiness that I get from being in a position of leadership.
There's a question from Mukasa Faiswal. In our Ugandan culture, some activities are restricted from the female gender. How can we overcome this? Maybe I would also enhance on the topic in sense of it's not just Ugandan culture. A lot of global cultures, Asian cultures, there's a whole tendency to push more towards the male as opposed to the female. So what are some ways that we can overcome this in our next generations?
I think it's something that's generational and bringing awareness to maybe the older generation that we women have worked so hard to get to where they are now, and it's still something that we have to face on a daily basis. And so I think just having those conversations that women can do anything that men can do, and they can probably do it better, but that's my opinion. But just having these conversations and giving women the opportunity is the first step, right? Because there won't be any change to these preconceived notions unless there's a chance for it to change.
Education is so important, and educating the girls and the boys is key to everything. I believe that, yeah, there's always going to be cultural stereotypes, and those aren't going to go away, no matter what leadership position a woman is in. And I think we need to reassure the men that just because we're leaders, it doesn't mean we're not great wives. It doesn't mean we're not great mothers. It doesn't mean that we're not great daughters. It just means that we're integrating our lives, to make work allow work to fulfill us, but then also to have our family lives fulfill us on a different level. So I think just education. I think a lot of these stereotypes kind of will gradually fizzle away when we understand that every right that a man has, a woman has as well.
I'm now going to take this opportunity to invite Claire, one of the members from the NSSF team, up to the podium to ask some of her own questions. She's been very, very focused on the conversation, and I know she has some burning questions to ask, and I will be back.
Okay. Nabila and Prenal, we're so glad to have you here. Sorry about that. We're very glad to have you here, and as really, really glued to the conversation, like Jaffa said. And my name is Claire, first and foremost. I work with the e-channels in the operations department, and I will dive straight into the questions because I am curious to know. On Women's Day, we had a session for the women, and one of our key topics was breaking the bias. So how do we stop gender bias? Like, how do you do it in your companies and where you work and all the suppliers that you deal with? So do you really is there inclusion for women in all your operations and everything that you do? In the fund, it is something that we are working on to uplift ourselves, to give women an opportunity to showcase their potential, especially in leadership. So I'm curious to know.
So for us in each department, I've made it a point to have an equal amount of women and men, right?
Mhm.
I think that's the first step. It's giving women the opportunity to, showcase their talents and show that they're capable. It's funny because when I first started, and even sometimes now, I give a certain employee a task or I ask a question and they still say, "Thank you, sir." Right? So it's funny, but it's something that's very real, and I don't think a lot of people are used to having a woman in a leadership position, but you take it with a pinch of salt and you keep going. But it's just about giving women equal opportunities as you do men, because that's the only way that this gender bias can be shattered.
Okay.
In our organization, we've always had a pretty balanced male-female ratio. And I think coming into the organization as one of the female leaders, it definitely shook things up in our organization because suddenly, I had male work employees kind of say, oh, we're going to have to take instructions from her.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, and because of my work experiences outside of Uganda in environments where I was the only female, you know, I look at it as an opportunity to share my experiences with my employees and tell them, hey, you know, it's it's okay to take instruction from a woman. You know, it's not a big deal. You know, and it's not demoralizing in any way. And what we've done is we've allowed for open conversation. So you know, we've had situations where I felt that a female employee was better to lead a particular task.
Yeah.
And I'll be very open. I'll say, look, I think she's more capable than you are in this situation, but then I back it up with evidence. Like, you know, look, she can do A, B, C, D.
Yeah.
Can you do A, B, C, D? Because if you can, it's yours. And usually they'll be like, yeah, I see the value in what you're proposing.
Yeah.
And so that's how we're trying to break the gender biases by saying, look, we all have what we're good at, and we can't always be good at everything.
Yeah,
so it's okay to let the woman take the lead in this situation. You're not lowering yourself in any way by doing that.
Brilliant. And I love reading books from women, and Sheryl Sandberg is one of my favorite because of her experiences and everything she has gone through. I don't know if you know her, CEO of Facebook. Anyway, so we women, as we progress in our leadership and in our careers, you know, we fail to negotiate our salaries. So what is the best way to negotiate our salaries and the scope of work that you're given? I remember reading Lenin, Sheryl Sandberg, and she mentioned that when she was made COO, she didn't know how to negotiate her salary. I think she negotiated for a way lower salary. So when she told her husband Dave, he was like, "What? I wouldn't even work for that. Like, you're COO, for crying out loud." So that gets me thinking, how would you advise women out there to negotiate their salaries, me inclusive? Yeah, so how do you do it in your organizations? Like, do you have women come through to negotiate their salaries, especially if you've given them a bigger scope of work, or you're changing their scope of work, or you're growing them? Do they stay at what they signed up for in the beginning or something? How do you encourage that? Because that is very important, especially in our corporate world where we're not entrepreneurs. Mm-hmm.
Well, you know your value, right?
Yeah.
You know what you're bringing to the table. And there is nothing wrong with asking for what you deserve, right?
Exactly.
Obviously, be realistic, and that's for anybody. And have those conversations with your bosses or whoever you need to speak to, right? Your salary should reflect your value. And so there's no harm in asking. And, you know, if it's specific to like how to ask, there are a lot of these, you know, mock interviews and mock scenarios that you can find online that really give you that training on how to have these difficult conversations as well with your bosses, especially if it's confidence that you're, you know, lacking in.
Yeah.
Google is your best friend. Just look it up, and I promise you there is a wealth of knowledge on how to negotiate, how to speak to people, and how to have those difficult conversations.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe if I
Great.
go ahead, please.
Exactly what Nabila said, but you should know what you're worth. You should know what your time is worth, right? And I think it starts with your knowledge, your expertise, your background, your experience. What do you bring to the table? Because when you have all this on your resume and you have it at the back of your head, then you know that I'm worth more than what I think I am. You know, because I think that women, we tend to sell ourselves short.
Yeah.
You know, and so in terms of negotiating, okay, you know, do your research. You know, what is the average salaries paid out on this particular background or industry, right? Do your research. If you connect with a couple of your peers in that same industry, just get general data, because no one's going to disclose what they're getting paid, right? Be like, hey, but like, you know, what is the going rate right now, blah, blah, blah. But, you know, it's okay to just take it up a notch and say, hey, you know, I think I'm worth this. Because they could say, hey, you know what, to be honest with you, we don't pay new hires this much. but we can consider it after a year's probation or whatever, right? So just learn to not sell yourself short and undervalue your potential.
Very
I
important
want to just
nugget there.
add something about when you're negotiating your salary. It's always important that you first get buy-in from your immediate supervisors or superiors, your team leaders, supervisors. Let them see the value you bring. When you're going into this negotiation, be prepared. Understand what the value you bring and make sure your boss also sees that value, and talk about your journey in the company going forward. So talk about things you could add to the company, talk about how you want to stay in this company long term. So when you're negotiating that, the person sees that, hey, this person has brought me value and will continue to bring me value if I keep them motivated.
Very, very important nugget shared over there, because I know it's a limiting factor for most females in the corporate world, because most times we feel like it's an opportunity for us to be where we are, especially in leadership. So we cut ourselves short, but oh well, research. Last one. What has been, I know, Prenal, you're very positive minded person. Even from the conversations we've been having, you say, I'm sorry, I'm too positive. But what has been the most, one of the most significant barriers in your career? Because we all go through that, that hitch in our lives. So, and how did you get over it?
Okay, so 7 years ago, I moved to Uganda. I had never done any kind of business in Uganda. I have a background in sales and marketing. As you can tell, I'm super confident, sometimes a bit overconfident. But I would walk into businesses and I'd get told, "Why are you working? Shouldn't you be at home taking care of your children?" Or, why would I do business with you when there's like 10 other companies that do what you do? And I remember just like feeling so beat down. Every day I'd end my day thinking, am I in the right country? Am I doing the right thing? And it took a lot of no's, a lot of beat downs to get to where I am. And I may sit here confidently saying that, I've achieved a lot. But, in all honesty, I'm still pushing and I'm still fighting every day. But I do it with a positive mindset because I truly believe that, there is enough business for everybody.
Yeah.
And there's enough opportunities for everyone to win.
Yeah.
And so, if I shared my ratios with you from my past, you'd be floored because, I literally could make 100 phone calls in like 2 hours. In those 100 phone calls, I could get 12 potential business owners on the phone. Of those 12, I'd probably get about 3 or 4 appointments. Out of those 3 or 4 appointments, I might be able to convince one business owner to give me their business. But it's about perseverance, it's about persistence, and it's just about doing it every day, even on those days when you are not in the mood to do it.
Surely, like you mentioned, don't get bogged down with the whys all the time. Evolve with the new world and what's trending. I see that in what you're saying. I hope female listeners out there are taking note of these, because we women really feel we are really bogged down, especially in the different settings that we're in, family, society, and the workplace. But you share something important, so I'll go to you, Nabila.
It's like Prenal said, right? It's your mindset. There's days where, you don't feel like you're doing a good job, or, you made a mistake, or, and you do feel like eyes are on you all the time, right? Because you stand out because you're a female. There's definitely been days where I just felt like giving up or not continuing, but that's life, right? There will always be something that bogs you down, right? And it's just a matter of how strong are you to get back up and keep going, because nothing else is going to put food on the table. You need to put yourself out there, you need to work hard, and you need to keep going. And I think what helps is finding that purpose or that reason or that person that keeps you going. And I think reminding yourself of that really helps. So take that into consideration.
Clear, if I may ask, there was a lot of emotion when you asked that question. Maybe you can just give us an experience share of what was behind that question and what are you maybe going through or people near you going through?
Um, you know, as a child, I'm really aggressive, and I think the people around me know that. Success is a must-have for me. I don't know how to fail. I don't even like failure. I don't even like thinking about it, and yet there are a lot of barriers you meet while you're progressing in life, while you're growing up the ladder, and you feel like, oh my God, I'm growing old, and yet I'm not where I'm supposed to be. Look at where I am, and all these barriers. I mean, so that's why I asked you guys this question because I feel it sometimes, and I know that age is not a limiting factor, but it checks in with us, Because like the CEO of PepsiCo, you know her. Yeah, she keeps saying, the biological clock is not on our side as women versus our career clock. So we have to pedal twice as much as compared to men. So when I listen to a lot of her podcasts. So when I listen to all those things, I'm like, oh my God, I'm hitting this level and I'm not yet where I'm supposed to be. So you look at all those limiting factors and you want to imagine, how do I go past this? How do I jump this biological clock that is counting right behind me or right in front of me? And I'm heading there. So that's why I asked. And I needed to know how you guys have done it because I'm not the only one. I know we are a lot of us out there. So, yeah.
Thank
Jaffa, that's why I asked that
Thank
question.
you.
Then I got a special request from someone who asked me, especially to you, Prenal. What would you give your young self? Okay, now you are where you are right now, but what would you have done better 7 years ago to achieve what you have right now? Or what would you have made right? Probably be your father's successor by now because you've delayed his retirement. He really wants to go out, but he doesn't feel comfortable leaving you in Patronics alone. So he feels like, I don't think we are there yet. I think I need to work 2 more years before I literally hand over to you guys. So what would you have told your young self?
So if I'm being completely honest, I didn't even think I was going to join my father's business. So I actually wasn't even thinking along the lines of, I'm coming back to Africa, I'm going to run this engineering company. And had I been thinking this, and it started with just not having these conversations with my father as a young child, right?
Yeah.
So I would have probably taken a different approach, I would have been a little bit more aggressive in my approach to learning the business. I would have not just been comfortable hanging out in the US for so long.
Yeah.
I would have actually come back home sooner.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because in my 20s I was still very shy and introverted. And so I think I hindered my own progress into leadership because I was having a lot of these self-doubt conversations, where, I don't think I'm cut out to be a leader. I don't think I have what it takes to be successful, right? So I think if I had to redo it all over again, I would definitely start early. That's what I would say to myself. Say, you know what, Prenal, put yourself in that situation. I know it's uncomfortable, but do it.
Yeah.
And I see myself pushing my children to do that now. I mean, I have a 6-year-old and a 9-year-old.
Wow.
And the other day I did something and my son looks at me and goes, "Oh, Mom, that looked very uncomfortable." And I said, "Oh, yeah, it was. But you know what? That's what it takes." And so those are the kind of situations where, in my 40s, I'm doing it now, but it's okay because you know what? It's never too late.
It's
never too late to start. And just, you know what? You can't sit here and regret the things you didn't do. Just find reasons to keep pushing yourself now, today, when you have the ability to.
Yeah, so we defy Indra Nooyi's concept of the biological clock is chasing your career clock. Okay. So, Nabila.
You couldn't pay me 4 years ago, and I would not have believed you if you told me that I was coming back to Uganda and I was going to live here and I was going to run the business.
Yep.
I actually had zero interest in it when I moved to Canada. I moved away for school, and I kind of integrated life in Canada and never thought of coming back. And lo and behold, here we are. And if I could say anything to my younger self is don't get in your own way.
Yeah.
Like, just be confident. I think I passed up so many opportunities out of fear. And I think about this question a lot. So I like that question.
Yeah.
Don't get in your own way.
Yeah.
You want to do it? Just do it.
Just do it.
You have nothing to lose. And a biological clock, by the way, that's, you're on your own timeline. I know it's difficult when you see women who've achieved so much in their career and their family and they look like they have it all together. Yeah. But that's her own journey, and you're on your own. So you make up the rules. There's no one rule, right?
Okay, that's very important. Because I know that we get scared, we fear, we live in fear because I'm going to start popping all these babies. I'm going to get married, and this is going to set me back in my career journey. And lo and behold, I'm resigning, and I'm a full-time stay-home mom. So that's why I really wanted us to share that in depth. We missed it a bit. And I thought that for our listeners out there, this would be very important for us to know. It's not about the biological clock anyway. It is what you want to do and where you want to go. So, Jaffa.
And I also, sorry, Claire, I also wanted to say on that it's our responsibility as males that these are our sisters, our mothers, our daughters. These are the people in the industry. They're not foreign people. It's up to us to also make the situation more adaptable for them. Like at Fairway, we have a policy where when someone goes on maternity leave, they come back and the first 1 month is 50% on, 50% off. Yeah. So they have time to kind of adapt themselves back in. It's our responsibility as male leaders to ensure that females are given the right environment to grow based on the fact that they do take more of a burden when it comes to raising kids. They may have it more difficult. They are the ones that actually have to pop out a human being from themselves.
Exactly.
And that's our child. So we have to make the environment more easy for them as well.
Yeah. And so I like reading women's books, and I'll refer back to Lean Women in Work and The Will to Lead. So in one of Cheryl's chapters, she quotes that, the workplace is not a ladder, it's a jungle gym. And I don't know if you guys face it where you are. You won't have your way, your soft landing, or have a silver plate handed over to you. No, you have to work hard. So that's why she calls it a jungle gym. So is it the same exact feeling that you guys have? I know yours is more like inheritance and all that family business, and you're growing into the family business, and obviously which parent wouldn't want to let their kids take over that legacy and grow the legacy and maintain it, keep it, So is it like that? Is it a jungle gym where you are?
Okay, so before we got into our family businesses, we were also working for somebody else.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Absolutely, it is a jungle gym out there. I recall like graduating university and taking my first job, and it was in logistics, and I showed up in this office, and there was like 7 men, and then there was Prenal. And it was interesting because I had to stand my own ground. I had to say, I'm here, and I'm here to do exactly what you're here to do, and I'm going to show you how I'm going to do it better than you. And it wasn't by speaking; it was by action, right? Yeah. So it's like we're here in our family businesses, Nabila and I and Azhar, and we're doing the same thing. We're trying to prove the same things to our fathers, to our spouses, to our employees. Yeah, because exactly. They're like, oh, well, you just kind of got this position given to you.
Exactly.
It's not as glorious as it appears on the outside. Every day we're jumping one obstacle to another. And most days we're just doing it with a big, massive smile on our face and, kind of masking all the emotions on the back and dealing with them behind closed doors. Yeah. So it is not a glide. Yeah. Life is not a glide. It is literally hops and jumps and drops and bumps, and you get beat up. Yeah. But it's how you pick yourself up after you get beat up that determines your next step in life.
Interesting. Nabila, have you experienced a jungle gym?
Every day is a jungle gym. But I think that just comes with, a business. And, yes, we've inherited this, or like how you said, but I feel like in many ways it's more difficult because you have to prove yourself, and, you have more to lose
Yeah.
because it's a legacy,
Yeah,
right?
it's a legacy.
So you definitely have more to lose, and you definitely have to prove yourself each and every day. And yeah, but that is life. It's a jungle gym.
To you, Jaffa, is it the same for the women in your line of business? Do you feel it? Do you see it? Because as a CEO, you literally have a 360-degree view of everything that happens in your organization. And we're glad to have you as a man on this, because this helps us share the divergent views that are out there.
No, it definitely is. I think whether you're male or female, like everyone has said, you all go through the same things. Family businesses, we're all struggling to prove ourselves, to make our own names and all that stuff. And the jungle gym is never ending. It just gets more complicated as you get older. But it's just important to find, like I said, those support systems like EO or whatever it is, and see how you can help each other grow in a very healthy way.
Okay. So there's this very last question from our listener, Mukasa Faizo, who says that how can a lady express out her divergent idea amidst the men in the organizational structure?
I think we sort of touched on this before, right? It's not about being male or being female. It's about what you're bringing to the table, right? So if you're confident in your idea and your pitch, go
That's
for
just
it.
about it.
Like I said, it's only you who's standing in your own way, right? So get out of your own way and just do it.
Yeah. Cool.
And when we're in our work environments, I know I'm not looking at you as a male or a female. I'm just looking at you as my peer.
Yep.
And I'm looking at you as, what do you bring to the table, and are you going to be able to achieve the task at hand? So, when we can talk about gender all day, every day, but at the end of the day, it's not about gender when it comes to leadership. It's about our success in our businesses. It's about, can we achieve the goals we set out to achieve, right? And so, when I'm in a room full of men, I'm not even thinking of myself as like, oh my God, I'm the only woman here. I'm just thinking about, all right, how am I going to do what I came here to do?
Yeah.
Which is achieve success for my organization or bring value to my organization. So what I say to the gentleman who asked this question is, worry less about whether it's male, female, and worry more about the context of what you're trying to achieve.
So do you mentor young Ugandan girls?
I have not mentored, but I would love to share and mentor young Ugandan girls, young Ugandan boys. I think what Azur, myself, and Nabila bring to the table is an opportunity to share not just our knowledge and our experience, but to just also impart all of that to the young generation here in Uganda.
Okay. That's amazing.
I'll add that I think that's why we do these things. It's, even if you take away one thing from any of these talks and it helps you climb from where you are now to where you want to be, we've added value. And I think that's what we're trying to do is with this partnership between EO and NSSF, is how do we share the challenges that we have faced as entrepreneurs so you don't make the same mistakes in your own journeys.
Yeah. Okay, thank you for that. So as we wind up, it is our culture after our talks. Of course, we talk about the books. It's very important. You mentioned it. Equip yourself, research, read, be the best person in the boardroom every time you walk in there. Come up with something new. I personally love leaning option B, and I listen to a lot of podcasts. So many women communities online, because there's so much to learn out there, and we are so happy that we have the internet available to us, because we find ourselves reading, listening. All those experiences that these women go through are things that we are walking into, and they are paving way for us for a better, for a better life out there, and a fair competition, and not feel inadequate or shallow of yourself. and instead go there when you have so much strength superior and you're like, boy, oh boy, I am going to write those divergences and everything that you are talking about. So, the derivatives aside, what books could you recommend to our lovely listeners out there in this talk that we've had? You know, women leading success. I mean, we are breaking the bias, we're changing the odds. So,
Yeah, so I have a couple of authors that I'm like a massive fan of. I mix my reading between hard copy books and audiobooks. So I absolutely enjoy listening to Robin Sharma. He's just come out with this latest book a couple of months ago called The Great Hero Manifesto. And it's a beautiful like book for anybody who wants something different, something inspiring, motivating,
Yeah.
you know, like the crazy positivity that I have.
that you have.
Yeah. So Robin Sharma, there's a lady named Brene Brown who has a really good book called Dare to Lead.
Yeah.
I'm kind of halfway through that book. And then there's the new book I'm reading right now is called Focus by something Goldman. And he's
Yeah.
a great author as well. But my bedside reading, I have about 5 or 6 different books. Depending on my mood, I kind of just pick up whatever. And I had stopped reading when I became a mom.
Yeah.
And it was only about 2 years ago when COVID hit when I started picking up books again as my time passed. And now I spend about 30 minutes every day. I commit 30 minutes every day to reading. for myself.
Brilliant. Nabila.
So currently reading The Power of Now.
Wow.
I know it's a very common book, but it's something that as my entrepreneurship forum is doing as a group, a friend of mine is like a manifester of her own life. She said, in 6 months, I will be engaged, I'll get married. In 8 months, I'll move to a different city and I'll get the job I want. And she manifested every single thing she set out to do.
Wow.
And she gave credit to Eckhart Tolle, it's about manifestation. And so this is something I just discovered last week. And you can register online for it and kind of, do your own research. And I think that's an important asset to have, not only as a female, but, as a business owner or somebody who wants to achieve greatness. So I think that's something I'm excited to look into and something I would suggest for anyone else to do as well.
Perfect. Jaffa?
I actually had to research to make sure I had a book this time. But before I go on that, I want to say about manifestation as well. It's such a powerful tool.
Yeah.
Just get a piece of paper, put it in your bedroom, write the things you want in your life. Look at it every day when you wake up, every day before you go to bed, and it will become a reality. The book I'm reading right now is called Atomic Habits, and it's about how do you live your life, those small little micro habits every day that help you lead a better life.
Interesting. I also like a book, Work Like You're Showing Off. It's online yet. I've not seen the hard copy yet, but it helps us a lot. Work like you're showing off. Yes. We'll be like, man, that girl. But it's okay. Work like you're showing off. It's you trying to, build your reputation and your career and be competitive in the environment that you're in. So it's very okay. Competition is healthy as long as it's good and you're not, bogging people down. I'll use your word. Yeah, so thank you so much, dear listeners, and to the amazing panel. We always learn something new. And yes, we are still celebrating the Women's Month. It just doesn't stop at one day, but in this month we learn and we grow a lot. We support each other, and we are breaking the bias indeed. So to our dear listeners, NSSF, we're still paying out midterm. And you don't have to walk in physically. You can access it online on USSD through the different telcos, which is MTN and Airtel. So we are ready to serve. And that's it from me. I'll hand over to Jaffa to close. And we call it a day.
So yeah, I'd just like to take this opportunity once again to thank NSSF for helping us make this happen, and to thank the panelists, Prenal and Nabila. Thank you so much for being vulnerable and open about your journey, and I hope you guys at home have at least gained at least one or two things from this talk. I always advise people, whenever you go to some informational talk, write down those 3 to 5 points you get out of each talk so you can keep looking at it and it reminds you of how to get better. So thank you very much, and hope to see you on our next talk.
One thing. Oh, you guys have closed.
You are still live.
Okay. One other thing is that would really appreciate feedback from our listeners. So do click the link that has been shared, and it's good to help we get better with feedback. Thank you, and have a blessed day.